A hammock is a hammock is a hammock. If you've seen one hammock, you've seen them all.
Not.
So I'm going to do a real quick overview and comparison of my 3 hammock camping systems. This is my Blackbird, this is the Haven XL, and this is the new Haven Safari. This is not even on the market yet. The Blackbird, I've been using this for over a decade. This is a fantastic hammock. It's an ASYM hammock, and it's made by Warbonnet, and it has some really good advantages and a handful of disadvantages. The Haven, a little bit bigger, a little bit bulkier, a little bit heavier. Same thing, it's got some advantages and some disadvantages, but this, unlike this, will allow you to sleep on the ground if you don't have any trees. So you can use this as a hammock or a tent and a bivvy. So in the middle of nowhere, if you're in the desert, you can be sheltered from rain and wind and all that. And you can't really do that with this. You could use the tarp as a shelter, but you can't really be bug proof, anything like that. Same with the new Safari. Same idea as this. It's a hammock tent and a bivvy. You can see the size has increased a pretty good bit. So this is a good bit heavier, a good bit bulkier, but it's much more rugged material. And it also has a recliner position. You can pull a strap up, and I'm going to get into all that later, but I just wanted to give you a quick overview and talk about some of the things. The disadvantage to this system is it's probably not going to be comfortable for everybody. It's an ASYM, which means you can sleep on your side, but it still takes a lot of adjustment. It has to be, you have to get it pretty close. The trees have to be a certain distance from each other to be able to work. And you have to add a couple of things if you're going to use the tarp stakes. And the thing that nobody wants to talk about is just a general hammock is a 1-season camp system. So in other words, if you're camping in the summer and it's nice and warm at night, no problem. But if you don't, if you're camping in the spring or the fall, or especially in the winter, you're going to need something to insulate the bottom. So here you go. You got all these 3 things, which may not come to mind when people are start looking at something like this, and they go, oh yeah, that's nice and light. And it is. It's relatively light. And you start thinking, okay, it's light. It's not really bulky. But they don't think about your stakes, and you don't think about your underquilt, which is what that is. It's basically a half a sleeping bag that you hang underneath your hammock to make sure you don't freeze to death in anything below 70 degrees. This system has a mattress, an air pad that you sleep on, which will keep you warm. I've slept in down to 30, in the mid 30s in it so far. Same with this, same thing. So comparing apples to oranges, you know, you got almost the same bulk as these guys, at least in the XL. And this is a good bit heavier than all these, but still, mostly what you have to worry about is the bulk. So, and I'm going to do a review on the Safari, but I've only slept in this thing one night. I just wanted to let everybody see this before I start camping in this thing. This is the only thing I'm carrying. Well, I'm probably going to carry this tarp with me too, just because this tarp is awesome. It's huge. And this one only covers the hammock, which you'll see all that. So I'm going to do an in-depth review of this. I'll probably do another review of this, but I've already done a quick review of that. It's on YouTube. I'll leave the links below. I'll leave the links below to everything I've ever done in the Blackbird, which is, I love this hammock. And you know, if you got to travel light, you don't have a lot of room, you just got a backpack, this is probably the setup that you need. As long as it doesn't get cold, then you got to carry this, and you got to carry the stakes. Anyway, I just wanted to get this out here, show you a few differences, and show you similarities, and you know, the things that you should take into consideration, and not just look at this and go, oh my gosh, that's too big, I can't use this, or look at this, it's too big. You know, this is very comparable to this. It's almost the same weight. You don't need an underquilt because you've got the air mattress that goes underneath you, and this is extraordinarily comfortable. This is very comfortable for a hammock. Extraordinarily comfortable. Unless I'm going on a much smaller bike, I'm not going to carry this anymore. Probably not. So yeah, I'm moving into the Haven just because it's nothing else really makes sense, and I've just got to figure out what I've got to get rid of or make room for on this bike when I'm traveling. And that's it. So what's the one thing that I failed to mention about what I'm not carrying this year? A 2-man tent, which is the only thing that I would consider carrying to be able to get some of my gear inside and keep it dry. I once traveled with this and a hammock, and I'm so glad to be rid of this thing finally, because I don't need a tent anymore. I carried the tent before for the times when I could not find trees, desert, barren landscapes, anything like that, or the trees are too farly spaced apart and I still want to camp there. I carried a tent for those situations. Now I have it all in one bag. Oh, here's the other thing. To sleep comfortably in this thing, talk about bulk. That's bulky. And if you like sleeping on the ground, that's fine. But what if you don't? If you're somebody like me, I don't like sleeping on the ground, but I would like to have the option, just in case there's no trees, just in case there's desert. I mean, you start stacking this stuff together and you start thinking, okay, yeah, I don't know. So apples and oranges, that's the best I could do right now. If you're coming to one of the rallies in April, check me out. I'm going to try to carry both Havens. So if you want to try those out, you can. And kind of compare apples to apples. And, if you don't like it, you can crawl back into your tent.